Hey everyone, welcome to the JSV Podcast, Episode 1. I'm super excited about starting this podcast. What this is going to be is your one-stop shop for all things MLB, NBA, and NFL. I really want to focus on those three leagues. Those are the three sports and leagues that I'm most passionate about. We will talk a little bit about like the college sports for for those respective sports as well, especially when it comes to like the getting into conference championship games, conference championship tournaments, college World Series, March Madness, college football playoffs. That stuff we'll also talk about as well here a little bit, but we're going to be focusing more on the NBA, MLB, and NFL. And I think the way I'm going to do is these first three episodes, I'm going to have one episode for each of those respective sports. Moving forward, we'll probably go ahead and just combine them all in one episode. And unless there's something really big that we need to talk about, in which case we'll always think about doing either a longer episode or maybe two short ones. But we'll decide that as we get closer to it. So for this first episode, I really want to talk about the MLB. The MLB is about to start their new season. So what better way to start a new podcast than starting about a new season for baseball? I'm very excited about it. Now, I want to start with the Dodgers. And the reason why I want to start with the Dodgers is because everybody is saying that the Dodgers are like ruining baseball right now with all the, like everything that they're doing, all their spending. I'm going to tell you now, I completely disagree. I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball. I don't think they're doing anything that anyone else wouldn't do. We are just upset that our favorite team is not spending that money. They're not paying players like the Dodgers are paying their players. I get it. They're deferring a lot of the money, but they're going to have to pay those players eventually, right? They're just not paying them now, but then they will down the line, probably when they're not that good anymore, right? But people are comparing them to like the Warriors when they had Steph, Clay, KD, and Draymond, and they were like just always going to the finals, and everyone just knew that they were going to the finals. There wasn't any kind of like there was no parity, and I just disagree with that a little bit when it comes to baseball, because baseball is a little bit of it's a funny sport, because people go on hot streaks and cold streaks when it comes to batting, and then injuries will happen, and if you don't get some good injury luck, and that goes for all sports, then it doesn't really matter how much talent you have, so if that talent's the one that's getting hurt. So I don't think that the Dodgers are necessarily ruining baseball, especially considering they are making it a more international brand, because they have all these Japanese players on there. That's a huge market for baseball. And now all those fans are probably going to be tuned in to the Dodgers and all the other teams that the Dodgers play, because they want to see Ohtani, they want to see Sasaki, and Yamamoto. It's so I don't see how that is ruining the game or the league, and especially like, yes, they're coming off a World Series win. Congrats to the Dodgers. That was a great run. Let's not forget that the Padres were one game away from eliminating them. Let's not forget that the Mets, looked pretty strong against them at times, but I think overall the Dodgers did power them. But now the Mets have like Juan Soto on top of that, so I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad for baseball. Now, there's a lot of talent in baseball, and there's a lot of teams got better. Some other teams maybe got a little worse, but overall, we'll have to just wait to see if the Dodgers lose in the playoffs, because I can almost guarantee they'll make the playoffs. If the Dodgers lose in the playoffs, I don't think it. Then I don't know if we're really sitting back here and we're like, oh yeah, look at how they ruined baseball, and they're so terrible and blah blah blah. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. What if they do lose? What if the greatest team ever assembled, the Avengers, lose? Well, then can we really say that they ruined baseball? No. And I guarantee every fan wants their team to do what the Dodgers are doing, but they're just not. And I don't think that's on the owners of the other teams. I've heard reports like players or fans saying like, oh well, it's not the Dodgers' fault that owners don't want to pay and they're being all cheap and stuff. And then I've heard some owners come out and say, like, hey, we cannot spend as much as the Dodgers. And I've heard some mixed, I've heard mainly negative reactions to that of, like, oh, you're this billionaire, how come you don't spend and this and that. I don't think people realize, like, you're still having to spend money on the concessions. You're still having to spend the property money for your stadium and the office buildings and even though if they have a different office building, you have practice facilities cost money, equipment costs money, the coaching staff and front office people cost money, and then the players cost money. You have so much expenses, and yes, you do have a lot of revenue, but I don't think every team is not going to have the money that the Mets owner has, or that the Dodgers owner has, or that the Yankees owner has. If that was the case, and every owner had the exact same amount of money, that's basically a salary cap. That's a salary cap, where every team's going to have this exact same amount of money to spend. And then even on the sports that do have salary caps, they have a luxury tax that some owners are more willing to pay that luxury tax compared to others because of the income they receive. I don't think it's any question that the Dodgers or the Yankees, their owners make more money than like the Rockies owner, or even like the Astros or Rangers owners, because those are smaller markets compared to LA, New York. Especially when you talk about the history of those teams and the players that they've had, it's different. It really is different because not every owner makes the exact same. The state taxes are not the exact same, the fan base, like how much the fan base is willing to spend on tickets, merchandise, etc., is not the exact same. So there's a lot of different variables that go into it. So I don't think that just because the Dodgers are able to do this, that every owner would be able to do this. Because if that was the case, then every owner would be doing this. I don't think there's a single owner, or not many owners, who are so cheap that they wouldn't try to spend all the money that they can to improve their roster. So I don't really agree with people saying, oh, owners are just being cheap. I don't agree with that. I think they are trying, but it's hard because they don't have the same income that some of these larger markets do. If they did, we wouldn't be calling them small markets and large markets. So that's kind of my 2 cents there. I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Not to mention, it gave the league a bad guy, which everybody loves to root against a bad guy. So you're probably going to have maybe even more eyes, if anything, because people are going to want to see if the Dodgers will lose. Or just watch one of the greatest teams ever assembled just play baseball, because that's always fun, right? And by the way, this is coming from an Astros fan. I am 100% an Astros fan. So me giving the Dodgers the credit, that's not me being biased. That's not me being a Dodgers fan where I'm like, hey, you guys are being stupid and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm an Astros fan. I hate the Dodgers. But I can respect what they're doing because I wish my team could do that too. We can't, and I understand we can't, but I wish we could, and I bet if we could, we would. So yeah, that's it. All I have to really say about the Dodgers and like the owners not having the same amount of money. I think the next part I really want to hit on is some of the free agents out there. As of right now, I'm recording this on February 2nd. Alex Bregman's still a free agent. Pete Alonso's still a free agent, and I want to speak about those two specifically because they have this same owner in Scott Boras. And Scott Boras, who also is the agent. He's the agent for Juan Soto as well. And you heard the Mets owner come out and say, hey, the Juan Soto deal, that was not fun to do. He did not enjoy getting that deal done. But he did it because it's Juan Soto, and anybody would be out of their mind to not do that. But I think it's also worth mentioning that, look, it was not an enjoyable experience, and now he's having to go through the same thing with Pete Alonso, which he's also come out and said, what's the common denominator? It's Scott Boras, the agent. And I get it. Scott Boras, he's getting paid to try to get his players the best deal that he possibly can. But to a degree, right? Like, you saw how he didn't have a great offseason with guys like, Blake Snell, I think Carlos Correa as well, and and he was the pitcher for the Diamondbacks. Why am I trying to blank? Montgomery. There we go. And we're kind of starting to see that again. Like, look, again, Juan Soto deal got done. Blake Snell deal got done. Why? Well, because the Dodgers can just defer all that money, so they don't care. They're just trying to build a super team. The Mets, well, because they want to get Juan Soto, so that way they can try to compete. And he's a great player, so you're willing to deal with that kind of stuff. But Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, these are great players, but they're not the same level as like a Juan Soto. And the teams that are interested in them are not the same teams as like the Dodgers, who are just willing to be like, all right, hey, you know what? We just want you on our team, right? Actually, now that I think about it, Blake Snell dropped Scott Boras. I thought somebody did, but I'm not sure if it was him. But basically, the point is, I think he's doing a little too much right now, especially for Bregman and Alonso. Spring training is about to start, and both of those guys are not signed, and it doesn't look like a deal for either of those two guys is going to get signed anytime soon, because they're trying to ask for more money than what their market is. I get this like Alex Bregman, I think he wants like 6 years over $200 million. That might be what he's worth, and that could be debatable, depending on who you ask. I think he's probably worth that. I mean, he's a really good third baseman, good defensive guy, still has some power. He's not old by any means yet, so he'll still be good over those 6 years. But that's not what his market is. And then there's a difference between a player's worth and their market. And we do see that quite a bit, where players are getting overpaid or underpaid because that's what the market was for them at that time. And so Scott Boras is trying to get Alex Bregman the deal that Alex Bregman wants, and the best deal that he possibly can that will help him and Bregman out. And then same thing with Pete Alonso. But you have to realize that there is a market, and they have to realize that none of these owners are going to want to pay for these guys. They don't want to have these guys on their teams, not for the price that they're asking for. So I think Scott Boras and really Alex, I think Bregman and Alonso need to just tell Scott Boras, hey, I'm gonna play baseball this year. I want to play baseball this year. I should be playing baseball this year. Just get me a deal, man. Even if it has to be a 1-2 year deal or something like that. It's just ridiculous. And I think they can both get more than 1-2 year deals. I think both the Mets and I know the Astros, I think even the Tigers have also made an offer to Bregman. But the Astros and Tigers have made a pretty fair offer to Bregman that, hey, you're still going to get paid millions and millions of dollars. You're still going to have, it's maybe not the length and the money that you want, but hey, you're still going to be able to play baseball for a good team, compete, and you're still going to get paid a good amount of money, especially being in Texas, if you're the Astros or Detroit over there. So I think they need to just really make a hard look and start saying, hey, I want to play baseball. I want to compete. And for Bregman, I got 2 teams that have already offered me a contract that could definitely compete. Alonso, I would like to go back to, he should be able to be like, I want to go back to the Mets. They have a good team. I think I could compete there. And they're making me fair offers. They're maybe not the most ideal or the offer I was hoping and expecting for, but they aren't bad offers too. It's not a 1 year, $20 million, 1 year, $10 million. It's a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal, like hundreds of millions. At least over 100 million, I should say. Maybe not hundreds, but over 100. And so I think they really need to just take a look at that. Tell Scott Boras, this is what we want. Thank you for trying to get me the best offer, but I need to make sure I'm playing baseball. So I do think that there's something to be said on both the free agent Bregman and Alonso, as well as Scott Boras. Considering when even the Mets owner is out here telling the fans it's been painful experience, it has not been enjoyable. They would like to bring him back, but that the offer seems to be, heavily against the Mets, and it's like that's not how it should be. Um, yeah, I mean, if the Mets owner is not signing you because he thinks the offer is unfair, that should be telling you something. Because Mets owner Conan, he's willing to spend. He's willing to spend top money to top players. So, yeah, those guys got to figure it out. I expect that they will be playing on a team. I don't know but I don't think they're going to get the deal that they want. So, but we'll wait to see how that plays out. I really want to, as we enter next season, now that we have a pretty good understanding of how free agency has ended, and as we enter spring training, kind of just go through each division, pick out who I think will win it, as well as how I see the rankings there, and just try to do like a playoff prediction. And just see how that goes. So we'll start with the American League, and we're going to start with the AL East. So for those that don't know, the AL East consists of and I have the standings pulled up on the side to make sure I don't, one, miss a team, and two, I can kind of see how they ended and judge off that. But they have the Yankees, the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Rays, and the Blue Jays. So that is the AL East. The way that they ended last year, let me look, is the Yankees, Orioles, Red Sox, Rays, and Blue Jays in that order. I don't see it changing from that order. I think the Blue Jays will actually be better than the Rays. I could see them maybe better than the Red Sox, depending on Scherzer's health and how he's able to perform. But the Blue Jays have made a couple of interesting signings with Scherzer and Anthony Santander recently. And I mean, they did finish 6 games worse than the Tampa Bay Rays, but Tampa Bay, they're gonna have a full season without Randy Arozarena because they did trade him to the Mariners around the deadline of last year, so they got to at least start the year with Randy Arozarena. They also traded like Eflin midseason. I forgot they traded somebody else, but I cannot put my finger on it right now. But So the Rays have traded some guys. They haven't really brought anyone in, so I don't think they're gonna be that good. So I think the Blue Jays will actually hop them in the standings. The Blue Jays still have a pretty good team. They got Springer, Bichette, Guerrero Jr. Now you add Santander, you add Scherzer to that rotation, and we'll see again how his health holds up. They did bring in a reliever that is a little bit of a risk considering 2 teams decided not to go with him since due to health concerns, but I think you put together a better team right now than what the Rays have. So I don't know if they're better than Boston. I think they could be, but considering you were 7 games below Boston, and Boston still has a pretty good team, together. I don't really think that they got that much worse, if really at all. They probably only got better. Truthfully, not a ton better, but I could see them win an extra game or 2, and that might also be because the Orioles got worse and Yankees got a little worse, and that might help them get an extra win or 2. So I would say it's going to be Yankees, Orioles, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Rays. So the only changes there will be the Blue Jays and the Rays. I do think the Yankees, they won 94 games. I could see them, they'll probably still be around that 94, 92 range maybe. I'd guess somewhere between 92, 94. Baltimore at 91, I would expect that to drop to like 88, truthfully. I don't think they got much better. Their weakness was the pitching rotation, and you lost Corbin Burns, who was your ace. It's kind of hard. And then you also lost one of your hitters in Anthony Santander. And you didn't really bring in much to replace those guys. So you're relying a lot on the young guys that you already have on the team, and that can work. Those guys take the next leap. They look great. They play great. You look better. But relying on it is just making me hesitant. I don't think They are going to be much better. I think they will be a little bit worse, just like I predicted for the Yankees. And then Red Sox will be about the same. Blue Jays will probably be a little bit better. So, and the Rays will also be worse. So I don't think that division's looking very strong. And that was one of the strongest ones heading into, really probably even last season, even the season before that, especially when the Rays were really good. You saw the Blue Jays competing, Red Sox were competing. Like, that was a very, very deep division. And now it's looking not the weakest, not by far the weakest, but probably third or fourth strongest, I would say, in the league. So it's still really good, but not great. But yeah, I do have the Yankees winning that division. Baltimore, I'll have to wait. I think they still make the postseason. I don't think they'll miss it, but we'll kind of get into why. I'm not too sure about that. So we'll go to the AL Central. That one has and I'm going to name the teams in the order that they finished the standings. I think that's easier. Guardians, Royals, Tigers, Twins, White Sox. White Sox will be at the bottom. They're going to be bad. They're going to be terrible. So White Sox will be at the bottom. Okay. The Guardians are interesting. They lost Naylor, which is a big, big loss. But you brought in a guy. I believe they brought in Santana, if I'm not mistaken. So you got worse at the first base position. If we're like, let's just call an ace what it is. But you are going to get back Shane Bieber. He is coming back. We'll see how he looks. But there is a little bit more questions. You won the division by 6 games. You won 92 games last year. And that was they're a bit more of a surprise team. And I don't really like the fact that they were a surprise team. Because my pick to win that division was probably between the Twins and the Royals. I thought the Guardians would finish maybe second or third, but I didn't think they were going to win it. But they did, and they actually looked really, really good last year. So it was kind of a weird time to trade Josh Naylor, because I thought you guys were I thought they were building something really good. He's probably one of their stronger bats, and it just felt weird to trade him. But hey, I'm not the one making decisions. They have a plan in place. I'm sure. They're pretty good. They're a pretty well ran team. So but I'm not going to pick them to win the division. I think they will regress. And I don't know if Shane Bieber's going to come back looking as good as he is, but he is going to get a starter spot, so that might cost them a little bit, especially at the beginning. I'm actually going to go ahead and pick the Tigers to win the division. I'm picking the Tigers over the Royals because of what I saw in the postseason from the Tigers. Now, the Royals, again, both of those teams made it to the next round. The AL Central probably looks like the strongest division in the conference, considering that last year they had the Guardians, Tigers, and Royals all make it to the ALDS, and then the Guardians moved on to the Guardians moved on to the ALCS, but and then to lose to the Yankees. So you had 3 teams in the ALDS, and then of course 1 team in the ALCS. But they're a very deep team. I think the Twins will probably be better if they can also just stay healthy. The but is coming from, I think the Guardians will regress a little bit. I'm not too sure how the Royals will do. I think they're going to keep getting better, but the Tigers just look good. The Tigers look so good. I think the Tigers should bring back Jack Flaherty, who they actually had at last season and dealt at before the trade deadline to the Dodgers, and he's still a free agent at this time. I'm recording this. And I think they should bring him back. And if they can add Alex Bregman too, that team looks really good, especially for that division. Because there's not a team in that division that stands out from the rest. They're all pretty even. Last year, yes, the Guardians kind of stood out. And, you can see that in a 6-game cushion between first and second. But then from second to third, you had 86 wins. So Detroit and Royals tied. Royals had the tiebreaker, though. And then Minnesota was at 82, so only 4 games behind them. So there's a pretty big gap between the Guardians and the Twins of 10 games. And I think the Twins will probably still be that 4th team. just because while I think they will get better, the other three teams will still be good. I don't think the Guardians are going to get 10. I don't think the cushion between, or the difference between the Guardians and the Twins, with the Twins getting better, the Guardians getting worse, is going to be 10 games. Maybe 4 or 5 games of a difference. Where the Twins get 2 or 3 extra wins, Guardians get 2 or 3 extra losses, so you get like a 4 to 6 game makeup, but that still leaves the Guardians 4 games ahead of them based off last year's standings. So I would say the Tigers win it, Guardians are second, Royals are third. And the way I kind of see that is, and the Royals had 86 wins, they'll probably get 87 to 88. I don't think they're going to improve that drastically, especially with the Tigers looking better. Twins probably look a little bit better. Guardians will still be really good. So those are just tough teams to play against in your division constantly, because you play the teams in your division a lot more than anyone else, for those that did not know that. So they'll probably get just 1 or 2 games better, 87, 88 wins. Guardians will probably stay around like the 90 win range, like 89, 90. And then I could see the Tigers tying with the Guardians, 80, 89, 90, maybe 91, and kind of seeing the most improvement from that division. And if they are tied with the Guardians, I think they'll have the tiebreaker, especially because the Guardians was the team that eliminated them in the ALDS. So they're going to come out this year with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder against the Guardians. So they'll probably win that tiebreaker. So I would say that it would be Tigers, Guardians, Royals, Twins, White Sox. So Tigers would win the division. They go on. And I'll talk about if I think they'll get the bye or they'll have to play the wild card or not. So now for the last division, AL West. It has my favorite team, the Astros. And again, in the order that the standings finished, it was the Astros, Mariners, Rangers, A's, Angels. I was about to say the Angels, then A's, but no, that's right. A's did beat the Angels. I think the Angels will still be last. They're good players, cannot stay healthy. They brought in some guys, but I'm like, those guys aren't going to be what propels you. And the A's have gotten some young guys now from being bad for a number of years in a row. They have some young guys that they might be able to call up. They might play some really good, get them a couple of extra wins. But I think it's going to be A's and Angels at the bottom of the division again. A's they won 69 games. I could see them cracking 70, but not much more than 70 or 71 games. Angels won 63, 99. If Trout cannot stay healthy, I could see them losing 100, but they probably won't. But they're probably going to still be well under 70 wins. So you got the top 3 teams, and that's going to be a 3-team race: the Astros, the Mariners, the Rangers, right? I think the standings will finish with the Astros, Rangers, and Mariners in that order, because the Mariners, they had one of the top pitching staffs all of last year. I think they were the best pitching staff, in my opinion, all of last year, and I have some stats to support that. They led the league in ERA. They led the league in ERA, and they looked super dominant. They were just so good, and it starts with that starting rotation that I've heard that they are trying to maybe shop around one of those starting guys because they don't really need 4 or 5 aces, whatever they have. And so you can afford to lose one of those guys to then get a better hitter, because that's where they got defeated. They were below average in so many offensive categories. So I think the Mariners will be the 3rd team because they have an elite pitching staff, one of the best. They led the league in ERA. They looked just really good. They have so many aces in that starting rotation. The issue was their hitting. Their hitting was terrible last year. Their hitting was so bad last year, and that cost them games. Because while their starting rotation was out there keeping them in games or winning it for them, their offense could not match the production the pitching staff was giving them. And that's what really ended up costing the division. Truthfully, they try to make trade for Justin Turner. They try to make the trade for Randy Rosarena just to try to increase the offense, and it still wasn't enough, and they lost the division to the Astros. Now you're going to have an Astros team that we'll kind of talk about because they've made some interesting moves, but the Rangers will for sure be better. I don't see a world where the Rangers have another down year. Especially when you hear there's a common theme that Bochy-led teams, Bochy is their manager for the Rangers, Bochy-led teams will make the World Series, miss the playoffs, and then win the World Series again in that 3-year stretch, or they're at least really good again. So I think the Rangers will be really good again. I think the Astros will not regress. They might not regress at all. Again, we'll get to that, but they'll still be good. The Rangers will be better, and that leaves the Mariners at that third spot because they haven't done enough to improve. They brought back Polanco, and that's about it. So you brought back a guy that contributed, or not contributed, but was a part of a very below-average offense. And you're looking for trading one of your starting pitchers to get a better bat. I think that's a smart thing to do, but considering a trade has not been really finalized, or even there's not been any rumors that have supported a trade really taking traction, I just don't see how you do that. I don't see how you make that trade now. I think it's going to be more of a deadline deal when you see you're third place and falling behind, and you're just desperate to do something. And it's not a good area to be when you're the Mariners, because you have the pitching. All you gotta do is fix the hitting. That's it, and you're probably gonna be an elite team who could even contend for a World Series because that's how good the pitching staff is. Just have a decent offense, not a stellar offense, but just something decent where if you're that can score 3+ runs, because your pitching staff can probably hold teams to 3 or less runs consistently. So I feel bad for Mariners fans, I'm going to be honest. Maybe they take a step forward. Maybe some of those guys end up just kind of getting a hot bat for a season and their offense looks a lot better. But I'm not going to bank on that. I'm not going to expect that. So Seattle will be 3. Now here's the fun part. This is going to sound 100% biased because I've said I'm an Astros fan. But I think the Astros will win the division. Here is why. The Rangers lost Scherzer. You are relying on DeGrom and Eovaldi to lead your pitching rotation, which I think will be better. I'm not saying that you're not going to be better. I've said multiple times, I think you will be better. I think you will be back in the playoffs. I think you will be a 90-win team. You were 78 wins. I think you'll be back to the 90-win team like you were not last year, but 2023 when you won the World Series. You and the Astros tied for 90 wins. But the Astros had the tiebreaker, and I think that will be the same. The Astros hit so well in Globe Life Field, which is the home stadium of the Texas Rangers. They hit so well in Globe Life Field. They're very comfortable, and they know the Rangers from just having that in-state rivalry, being in the division, playing each other so often. They don't fear the Rangers, and the Rangers don't fear the Astros. I want to make that clear. But you have two really good pitchers in Eovaldi and DeGrom leading your starting rotation, but they both have a lot of injury history. Eovaldi missed was in and out of the rotation due to injury. DeGrom I don't know when the last time he's even played a full season. So you'll have both of them to start the season, which will be strong, which will be great. But what happens at the end of the season? Because that's what we saw in 2023. They had both those guys at the beginning, along with Scherzer. Scherzer was a deadline deal. But they had those two guys at the beginning of the season. They looked really good, both of those pitchers, and the Rangers looked really, really good. And then your offense went on some slumps. DeGrom got injured. And even though you brought in Montgomery and Scherzer at the deadline, you lost the division to the Houston Astros. And not only did you lose it to the Houston Astros, you lost it by losing to the Mariners to lose the division. So you lost to a division rival to lose the division to a different division rival. And I feel like you're setting yourself up for the same thing. Again, your bullpen I think looks better than it did last year. Your starting rotation is really on the shoulders of those two guys. Like, yeah, you have some other really good pitchers, but they're not elite. They're not gonna come in here and be Cy Young caliber pitchers. Eovaldi and DeGrom could be, but they have so much injury history. Like DeGrom might get injured again. Eovaldi, or he probably will. Honestly, he probably will, which sucks because I've actually liked DeGrom a lot since his time in New York, being a part of the Mets, and it's always sucked that he's always been injured. He always gets injured, and it's always a pretty serious injury that keeps him out for half the year or longer, and that's the biggest issue. That's the biggest concern, is that you don't have reliable pitchers in terms of health. And then they're not quite Eovaldi at least. He's starting to get up there in age. We don't know if he's going to start regressing. He probably won't, but we don't know. There's just a little too many ifs on the pitching staff still for me with the Rangers. And when you talk about their offense, in 2023, they were as good as they were because the offense was elite. And then in 2024, they were as bad as they were because the offense was not as elite. They took a step back from top to bottom. When you look at the batting averages, the OPS, the slugging percentage, all this stuff that shows, their power, their on-base percentage, their be able to get hits, not striking out, etc. Almost across the board, that decreased from 2023 to 2024. And you saw the difference in the team that was 90-win team, makes it to the World Series. You only lost 4 or 5 games, right, in that postseason run. So really, really good run. And then that was 2023 when they had the elite offense. You don't have an elite offense, and you missed the postseason. Pretty badly, too. Again, 78 teams from 90, that was a 12-game regression, missing the postseason, and having to watch the Astros win the division, for the 100th time since 2017. So now let's get to the Astros and why I think they'll win it. The Astros right now now you can look at that pitching rotation. You see Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, Ronel Blanco, Spencer Arrighetti, and then that new guy that they brought in, still learning his name, so you have to forgive me, that they brought in from the Cubs in the Kyle Tucker trade, and you're like, that's not a great rotation. And I would kind of agree. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's nothing to brag home about. But hey, Valdez and Hunter Brown have both been pretty reliable health-wise, knock on wood, that continues. But they've been pretty, reliable in terms of their health. They might miss a few games here or there, but they've been pretty good. And they're both, very young. So, and Valdez is going to be on a contract year. Bet his focus might be a little bit more intense now to try to make sure he can maximize how much money he can get in the offseason, right? And I like that the Astros didn't. I wish they kind of extended him, but I'm not mad that they don't, because if he does get injured or has a regression year, that only helps you on trying to re-sign him versus re-signing him and then he has those kind of bad years. Then it's like, oh, that's not looking too good. By the way, Valdez, Hunter Brown, 2 really good pitchers. Ronel Blanco, if he can replicate the magic that he had last season, that's a pretty good top 3. Spencer Arrighetti, he was just a rookie. Year 2 could be even better. And then you got the other guy who's just holding down the rotation, because guess what? The Astros are going to get, from everything I've heard, Lance McCullers Jr. will come back. We'll see how true that is. But Lance McCullers Jr. will come back. And Lance McCullers doesn't typically need too much time to get back in the swing of things. He can typically get back into it pretty quickly. So you have Lance McCullers Jr., you'll have Christian Javier coming back, you'll have Luis Garcia coming back. Those are 3 really good pitchers all coming back. And it can really then, now you're looking at a rotation that looks really strong and really deep. And then the pitchers that are starting currently, if they don't stay there, or they might, trade off starts with some of those other guys I mentioned coming back from injury to ramp them up. But then some of those guys will be in your bullpen too, and now that also strengthens your bullpen. So the Astros have a pretty good pitching staff. Nothing, again, super elite, nothing super spectacular, especially because guys are coming back from injury, and then other guys might get injured. Well, hopefully that won't happen. They've had a tough injury bug these last couple years, the Astros have. So hopefully the injury luck is on their side for this season. Now, you did lose Kyle Tucker, and that really does hurt in terms of your batting rotation, but you're still going to have, you still have Altuve, Pena, Yanner Diaz, Jordan Alvarez. You brought in Christian Walker, who he loves hitting home runs to left field. Guess what? The Astros, when he's going to be playing 81 games in Houston, the Astros have the short perch of the Crawford boxes. Not the short perch. The Crawford boxes in left, which is Houston's a very batter-friendly stadium, and especially because of the left field wall with the Crawford boxes. So that's where Christian Walker, your new first baseman, who's also a Gold Glove, so you're going to get better defensively, and that's where he likes to hit have his power hits for the home runs. You got better at first base. You regressed in the outfield, but you did get better at first base. Bregman was a really good defender. You have Paredes now, and while Paredes is not to the same level as Bregman, I don't think you're going to see a huge offensive drop-off. You're going to see a little bit of an offensive drop-off, but I don't think it's going to be drastic. Bregman wasn't exactly hitting 300, with 50 home runs or anything crazy like that. So, and when you look at the numbers, Paredes is like a slightly worse version of Bregman in terms of offense. But the numbers aren't terrible. And again, I believe Paredes also likes to hit towards left field, so he might benefit with extra games being at Houston with that with the Crawford boxes. So your infield offense, I think, overall improves, and your outfield offense does take a hit. But I mean, if McCormick can find his 2022 magic, or Dubon can kind of go back to 2023 when he was batting near 300 and not striking out at all and stuff, like they just find their mojo again, get going a little bit more. You still have a really good offensive lineup. The Astros were actually pretty good offensively last year, and that was with missing Kyle Tucker for a lot of the season. And most of the time catching up, they were 10 games behind the Mariners last year, and most of the time that they used to catch up to the Mariners in the standings was without Kyle Tucker because of his injury with the shin. So you see that, and you're like, okay, the Astros were able to find a really good winning formula without Tucker. You trade Tucker, but you got guys to improve your starting rotation while other guys come back from injury. You got third baseman in case Bregman doesn't come back, and if he does, Altuve apparently might go to left field. That'll be weird, but okay. Definitely makes at least your batting lineup still deeper. Defense, we'll have to see how that works, but either way, it was a good move because you wouldn't be able to re-sign Tucker. I don't think it's going to hurt their offense as much as people think it will in terms of what they got last year, the production they got last year. Yes, it hurts their lineup, of course, because he's a really good player and a great offensive player. But in terms of the production we had last year, because, again, a lot of it was without Tucker, you didn't really lose that much because you have Tucker for a good amount of the season last year and you don't have Tucker this year, so you don't have Tucker, right? That's the comment. So it sucks, but you at least got something for him. And you got some pieces of need because you also got the young third baseman, good prospect. Whether you keep him, trade him, I don't know. We'll see. But then you bring Christian Walker to shore up that first base position. And this feels different than when they brought in Jose Abreu because Christian Walker hasn't shown the same signs of regression that Abreu did when they brought him in. as well as he can at least provide really good defense at the very least. Like, you feel good about his defense, whereas Abreu wasn't even being a good defender. So Astros, I think, did get better, or they will get better once they get guys from injuries in their pitching rotation. But they're still going to be a very, very good team. And because of everything I've just talked about with the Rangers, I think the Rangers take an early lead at first. Like, they'll come out, they'll be first place in the division for the first couple, 2-3 months, and then you'll see the Astros catch up and probably win the division, which has been like the common theme since like 2020, maybe 2017. I don't know. It feels like Astros always start out so slow, so terrible, and then they just get on a hot streak and take that into the postseason. So we'll see how that goes, but I think it will be Astros, Rangers, Mariners, A's, Angels. I spent a little bit more time on the AL West than I meant to, but that is, again, my favorite team. The NL is a pretty easy one. We don't really need to break down each team quite as much. I think that one's a little bit more cut and dry. You'll see what I mean. So starting with the NL East, you got, in the order that they finished, the Phillies, the Braves, the Mets, the Nationals, the Marlins. Marlins, Nationals, they're going to finish, 5th and 4th, respectively. Again, Marlins at 5th, Nationals at 4th. Don't think I really need to talk about that too much or why. Those two teams are not even near the top 3 teams of the Phillies, Braves, and Mets. And I think the Marlins, especially after kind of selling a little bit at the deadline, are going to be that 5th team. I think the Mets will win the division. They were 6 games but behind. They tied with the Braves. The Braves had the tiebreaker. And they were 6 games behind the Phillies. This was another division where 3 teams made the postseason, and one of them made the NLCS. So they were really good division, very, very, very strong with those top 3 teams. Phillies, I think, will probably be the second again, and I think the Braves will be 3. I forgot to talk about wild card for AL, so I'll go back to that. I'll talk about wild card as a whole then. So Phillies, I think it's going to be Mets, Phillies, Braves in that order. Mets just looked like they got so much better. They had a strong end to the season, which really allowed them to catch up in the standings and tie the Braves like that. So they had such a strong end to the season. Phillies had such a strong season and then lost in the postseason. I think that's a little bit of a demoralizer, truthfully. And because of how hard it's been for them to try to get back to the World Series, especially after losing the Diamondbacks after almost going back to back, almost getting a World Series rematch between the Astros and Diamondbacks, or Astros and Phillies. I think they feel like they had some motivation to get back to the World Series, lost to the D-backs. They had some motivation to get back there again, had a great season, and then lost in the wild card. Now it's like, okay, so what's the motivation? So I think they will regress. Mets just look like a much, much better team. So Mets, Phillies, Braves. Braves do have a really good rotation, though, but they did lose Max Fried, so we'll see how the rest of the guys can step up. We'll go to the NL Central, where it was the Brewers, Cardinals, Cubs, Reds, Pirates. Cardinals still have Arenado. I don't know why. It's kind of hard for them to find a trade. I know he has the no trade clause, but I don't know. I feel like they should have been able to move him by now. Either way, though, so you have I think the Brewers will win the division again. They just look like such a better team. This is easily the weakest division in all of baseball. So it gets really tough to kind of predict, truthfully. But I think it will be the Brewers. I think the Cubs will... I don't know, because the Cubs have actually sold quite a bit of pieces, and they just brought in Tucker. I still like the Cubs, though, more than like the Reds instead. So I think it'll be Brewers, Cubs, Reds. If the Cardinals can find an Arenado trade and keep selling, then I think the Pirates will probably be better than them. So, I'm going to say the Cardinals are the worst team in the division. Only because they're trying to sell right now, and I think that's smart. I think they should try to be bad. So Brewers, Cubs, Reds, Pirates, Cardinals, in that order. I don't really want to talk about much of those teams. It's just all those teams feel like they only have a couple of outside the Brewers, the rest of the teams feel like they have a few really good players, but nothing too deep or promising that I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be a really good division or a really good team. So, last but not least, NL West, and then we'll talk about playoff predictions, or in terms of like who will make it. So, of the NL West, Dodgers will win it. In the rankings of last year, Dodgers, Padres, D-backs, Giants, and the Rockies. Rockies will be the last. They'll be the worst because the other 4 teams are just a lot better. As evident by the fact that the Rockies were a 19-point difference between them and 4th place San Francisco. So I think this could be the best division in baseball, and not just because they have the Dodgers, but because the Padres are still going to be a good team unless they sell off a lot of guys, but they will be good. The D-backs I think, got better, and they got better last year. They just, because of how deep the the National League was, they didn't make a wild card spot, which is crazy. You got better and missed the playoffs versus last year when you made the World Series. And I think they got even better. So they were an 89-win team. That could be a 90-win team. I could see it. Like, they almost had 3 90-win teams. 98-win Dodgers, 93-win San Diego, and 89-win D-backs. Wow. I didn't even realize that. I think you'll have 2 90-win teams again, but I think it's going to be the Dodgers and Diamondbacks. So I think it's going to be Dodgers at 100 wins, truthfully. Diamondbacks at 90 wins. San Diego will probably get to like the high 80s. I think they will regress, and because they have lost a couple guys. And it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel like they have a lot of confidence going into next season compared to some of the previous ones. So Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, Giants, and Rockies. Yeah, I think Giants will still be the man out. They added Verlander. Hey, if Verlander's Cy Young caliber, like at age 49 or whatever he is, I know he's not 49. He's like 43 though. Yeah, wow, good for him. I just don't see it. So there's nothing like too crazy about the Giants. They're going to be a good team. They'll be better than they were last year. I think 80-win team, they'll probably be like 85. I could see that. But because everyone else in the division also got better, it's going to be hard to get some of those extra wins. Like, you're going to have to beat up on like the NL Central teams when you play them. Like, Cardinals got worse, so beat up on them. Cubs might have gotten worse, beat up on them. So that's really it. In terms of now, like the postseason, we'll go back to the AL conference. So again, my conference winners were the Yankees, Tigers, Astros. So those are the 3 division winners. Astros finished last year better than the Tigers at 88 versus 86 wins, but Tigers did beat them in the postseason, but that's more so division. Yeah, I think the Astros have the better record because the division's weaker between, the Mariners not having a good offense and then A's and Angels still not being great teams, whereas Detroit really only has the White Sox that they can really beat up on. So I think Houston will have better wins. So I think it's going to be Yankees, Astros with the bye. Tigers will get the 3 seed and have to play the wild card. And then your three wild card spots, I think, are going to go to the Rangers, the Guardians. Oh, and do I think it will be Kansas City or Baltimore? I put them both at about the same amount of wins. That one, see, that's going to be tough. I mean, the wild card race is going to be really fun in the American League. It's honestly going to be pretty fun in the National League when we get to it too, but I think it's good. So for sure Rangers, for sure Guardians, and it's between the Orioles and the Royals. Orioles and Royals. I just didn't realize how close those sounded. I think I'm going to go with the Royals only because I don't really trust what the Orioles have done so far in the offseason to get better. Oh, that's going to be close, though. It's going to be close, but I'm gonna lean Royals. I'm going to say there's going to be 3 AL Central teams again. And it's going to be, again, Detroit as that 3 seed, Guardians, and Royals. And then Rangers will be the third wild card. Well, not the third wild card team, but they'll be one of the wild card teams. If I had to put an order to it, I think it would be Rangers, Guardians, Royals, which would put the Royals against the Tigers, and then the Guardians against the Rangers, where the Tigers and Rangers have home court or home field advantage. So in the wild card lead. So we'll see how that shapes up. Out in the National League, I had the Dodgers, Mets, and Brewers winning their divisions. I think it will be in that order too. I think Dodgers will get the 1 seed, Mets will get the 2 seed. Those two have the bye. Brewers have the 3 seed. And then the 3 wildcard teams I think are going to be Philly, the D-backs, and the Braves. I think the NL East will have 3 teams again. So I'm basically just swapping the D-backs and Padres. I think the Padres will regress. I think the D-backs will get better. I don't see the Phillies or Braves being that much worse to where the Padres would get in over one of them. I mean, the Padres had a four games better than the Braves last year, but I don't know. Again, the feeling in San Diego just doesn't feel as confident. That's what's kind of hurting me right now. So, yes, that's what we're going to go at. It's going to be so Dodgers 1, Mets 2, Brewers 3, and then we'll go with the Phillies, Diamondbacks, Braves in that order for the 3 wildcard spots, which would then set up the matchups of, okay, so I said Phillies, Diamondbacks, and Braves. So so the Braves and the Brewers would have a series with the Brewers having home field advantage, and then the Diamondbacks and Phillies would have the other wild card with it being in Philadelphia. That'd be a fun series. So those are kind of my playoff predictions, just thoughts on the season as a whole. So, but let me know who you think will be winning the division. Let me know who you would have as your World Series favorite heading into the season. Actually, everyone's going to just say the Dodgers. Who would be your biggest upset to win the World Series? Let's go with that. Yeah, who's your second pick to win the World Series, or who do you think has the best shot at upsetting the Dodgers to win the World Series? Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, just who do you think could upset the Dodgers for the World Series? Comment that. Mine's going to be the Astros because I'm biased. That's 100% a biased take, but yeah, comment below who you think that would be. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. Spotify, download, share. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks.